Hey guys, how's it going? Rafi again with KSuspension, and today we are working on this 01XJ. I am going to be explaining how to do ball joints. Pretty simple task. It sounds more daunting than it actually is. It's really not that bad of a job, but this guy, it actually needs a new axle U-joint. But since we're going to be taking everything apart, and it's going to get lifted soon, we're going to go ahead and do the ball joints now. We're also going to be replacing the hub, and we got new axle shafts and brakes, rotors, all that jazz. So we're just going to go ahead and do it all at once. So we're going to show you guys how to do the ball joints, and at the same time it should also show you how to perform the hub assembly replacement, and a cool little trick that will show you how to get those off as well. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Let's lift her up. So first step, we got to take the wheel off. So let's go ahead and zip this guy off. So now that we got the tire and wheel off, we're going to go ahead and remove the brake caliper, rotor, so that we can get behind everything. The caliper's held on by two 13mm bolts. So we're going to grab your wrench, pop those guys off. Make sure you set it off on the side or zip tie it up, that way the brake line isn't overextended and stretching. Oh, rotor's a little stuck. At this point, we're going to go ahead and remove the hub assembly. Now, to do this, there are three 13mm 12-point bolts on the back of the knuckle here that hold this hub assembly on. We're going to go ahead and break those loose, and then after that, we're going to go ahead and remove the center nut here. We got those things broke loose. We're going to go ahead and remove the center nut here. There is a cotter pin that goes through the axle shaft assembly that holds on this cap. We're going to go ahead and remove this cotter pin. Alright. So this is the cap for that nut. We're going to go ahead and just set this off to the side. There's a washer. We're going to set this off as well. And now this nut here, 36mm. So we're going to go ahead and zip this guy off with the impact gun. And behind the nut there is another washer. We're going to go ahead and set this off to the side too. We're going to reuse these on our reinstall. At this point, we're ready to take off the hub assembly right here. We got the 3 bolts out. These are the bolts that hold the hub assembly on. Again, 12-point, 13mm. Now, there are a couple of ways of getting this hub assembly off. Of course, we have the greatest method known to man, BFH. You can try slamming this guy, seeing if it'll break loose. But I know a lot of you guys have issues with, a lot of rust. And sometimes it doesn't matter how much you wail on it, it just doesn't want to come. Cool little trick you can do, grab yourself a regular 6-inch 3/8 extension, and you can actually set this inside of where the bolt goes behind the knuckle here, and just turn the wheel to the right. That way you actually use the force of the steering the extension will push up against the inner C here and pop this hub assembly off for you. So just a cool little trick in case you can't use the hammer method, or you've tried everything else known to mankind. 6-inch regular 3/8 extension, put it in one of the bolt holes, turn the wheel, should pop that off for you. In this case, I'm going to try the hammer first. That was easy. Then what you're going to do is go ahead and just push the axle shaft with your thumbs and pull the hub assembly at the same time. There you go. Alright, now that that's all off, we're going to go ahead and remove the axle shaft. This is super simple to do. Just pull. So after that's off, we got to go ahead and remove this knuckle. So we're going to go ahead and remove the nuts holding on the upper and lower ball joint, and we use a hammer to break it loose, and then we can take the knuckle off so we can access the ball joints. So I'm using a 22mm socket for the top, and I have a 1 1/8" socket for the bottom. So now that we got them loose, we're going to go and hit it with a hammer in order to break it off of the ball joint so that we can remove the knuckle. You can also remove the outer tie rod right here. That way you could take the knuckle completely off. I'm just going to try to leave it on there because one less thing to take off. Don't be afraid to whack it. You're not going to hurt it. Once it drops down, you know it's loose. You can finish removing the 2 nuts, and the knuckle should come right out now. Once the knuckle drops, you can go and just move it out of the way. Now we got view for our ball joints. So we went ahead and cleaned off our working area here. That way it's just a little bit easier to see everything. Get all that grime out of the way. You're not fighting it, with the sockets, spacers, and all that. So go ahead and take a look at your new ball joints. It should come as a pair, one upper, one lower. You'll notice the upper has a pretty good sized lip to it, and the lower, the lip is actually on the bottom side. So the upper is going to sit in just like this, and the lower sits in just like this. There is one thing though. These are pressed in, so you will have to get a ball joint press tool. You can rent that at most any local parts house. You should just be able to put a deposit on it, use it, bring it back, get your money back. Ends up being free, or you can purchase one. We have one here, so we're just going to use ours. But let's go ahead and push these old ones out and get these new ones in. So after it popped loose, the spacer that comes with the ball joint press just wasn't deep enough to push up into the cavity and push the ball joint out. So I just put a 1 inch and 1/16 socket on here. I'm going to use the socket to push it all the way through for the rest of it. And there you have it. Top ball joint's out. Now we can go ahead and push out the bottom. Now the top does come out upwards, and the bottom one comes out downwards. And you have to remove the top to get the bottom out. Well, you don't have to, but it makes life a lot easier. So the way we have this set up here, we have a big cup as a spacer on the bottom. The open spacer that also comes with it, the hard, thick metal part. And then we have the rod actually going through the upper ball joint hole down to the bottom, so that when we tighten it down, it should push it out. There you go. There's your lower ball joint. Let's clean this up. Now at this point we're going to go ahead and reinstall everything in the reverse order that we took it off. So since we took the bottom one out last, we're going to put the bottom one in first. And to do this we have to push up. So we're actually using the concave spacer up top as the set point for the screw. And then we're using the open hold multi-step spacer down here, because you can actually feel the ball joint end coming out from underneath the press. And as we tighten this up, this should pull it up, and you want to go until this lip of the ball joint is flush with the mating surface of the actual C. Let's tighten this guy down. There you go. Lower ball joint is now in. Let's do the top. Alright, so now we need to push the top one down to put it back in. We're using the open spacer on the bottom with a medium-sized sleeve here. And we're using the conical shaped spacer on top to sit on top of the ball joint so that we don't destroy the Zerk fitting on top. And I know sometimes people will take that out and use the flat surface to push down. I have accidentally pushed down that center and it has detented, and then you can't get the Zerk back in, and you gotta take this out and replace the ball joint again. So we're gonna see if this works. There you go. And again, just push it down until this shoulder here meets the mating surface of the C. Alright, so ball joints are in. I went ahead and cleaned out this whole area. While you have your axle shaft out, it's good to see whether or not your inner axle seals are leaking or not. It's very, very simple to tell. You pull that shaft out, a lot of oil comes out with it, they're probably bad. In this case, I didn't get any, so I'm going to assume that they're okay. But we're still going to take it apart and check. It needs a fluid change out anyway. And we can go ahead and put in whatever it is that you want to put in. In this case, we have new axle shafts, so we're going to be replacing those. But first off, let's get this knuckle back on. Now, when it comes to torquing these, the upper nut you want to torque down to 75 foot-pounds, and the lower nut we're going to torque down to 80 foot-pounds. So we're going to go ahead and tighten these guys down. Don't forget to reinstall new cotter pins. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and reassemble everything. In this case, we did get a new axle shaft. This is from a ZJ, 93 and 98 Grand Cherokee. As you can see, it looks a little bit different than our XJ axle shafts. There's no U-joint. This is a CV style axle shaft. It is technically a little bit weaker, but it's fine. Should run perfectly fine. There's many people who run these and they have excellent results. Also, this thing is going to be a pavement princess, so this one's not really going to go off-road. We have our 92 for that. Also, what we have here is a outer axle seal from 10 Factory. These things are wicked awesome. We run them in all of our Jeeps. You basically slide this guy into the axle housing, and it slides over the axle shaft, and it'll keep mud, water, debris, all that stuff out from getting inside the axle tube. If you happen to ever look at your factory shaft, I have one right here, I'll show you. All you have is this little dust boot. It doesn't really do a whole lot. I'm sure most of them are broken off by now anyway. So we're going to get these ones in. We're going to go ahead and get the axle shaft in. Great. So since we're replacing everything else, we got a new set of hubs as well. So we're going to throw these on. Again, backwards from how we took it off. We're going to go and just slide it over the splines. Line it up with these 3 mounting holes. And go ahead and grab the bolts. I would recommend throwing a little bit of anti-seize on them. Go ahead and throw them in, tighten them down. One thing to not forget when you're putting the hub assembly back on, your dust shield. I personally have chosen not to run this, so I didn't forget it. But you, if you like them, don't forget it. It goes behind the hub. Now, once you get everything tightened down, you want to go ahead and torque down those hub bolts, those 3 12-point 13mm bolts, to 75 foot-pounds. So let's go and torque these guys down. Alright, after we got the hub torqued down, we're going to go ahead and put our axle nut on. So if you remember, we had one big washer. We're going to throw the washer on. You can reuse your old axle nut, or if you're replacing your tail end of your axle shaft or the whole axle shaft, it should come with a new bolt. Or nut, sorry, new nut. I'm going to throw a little anti-sneeze on that before I forget. Alright, so one thing to remember when you're putting the hub nut on that axle, don't over tighten it. This is going to set the preload for your hub, so if you make it too tight, you're going to prematurely wear it out. Make it too loose, same issue. So you want to actually torque this guy down to 175 foot-pounds. Whew. It's kind of a pain with the CV shaft. Usually, if you're sticking with the standard U-joint axle shafts, you just take a pry bar, put it in the U-joint hole, and just kind of hold it there, or have the vehicle itself hold it while you torque it down. That wasn't fun. Next up, don't forget you got your little vent washer here to add tension to the end cap nut. So we're going to go ahead and throw that guy on. And then you have your cover. Put this guy on as well. And don't forget to replace the cotter pin as well. In this case, I did not get a new one. Let's grab one out of the toolbox. Okay guys, home stretch. Go ahead and reinstall your rotor or replace your rotors. In this case, we got some cross-drilled and slotted rotors that we're going to be putting on this guy. We're going to slide this on. Good time to go ahead and replace your pads and reassemble your brakes. Well guys, there you have it. Pretty simple way to go ahead and replace your ball joints or your hub assembly, whichever one you were watching this for. In this case, we just kind of did everything because we were already in there. We're going to go ahead and do the other side now, but it's the exact same process. So if you have any questions, feel free to shoot us a message through Facebook or on our email, suspensionlifts@gmail.com. As far as all the parts we used today, for the ball joints, we did run Spicer. We are a fan of Spicer. I really like them. We got them through Denny's Drive Shafts. They have the best price on the Spicer ball joints. So that's where we order them from. It's where we always order them from. We recommend it to others as well. And I will throw all the links in the description below for where we got all this. The CV shafts we got on Rock Auto. The 10 factory outer axle seals, I believe they were on Amazon. The hub assemblies, rotors, pads, those all came from Detroit Axle. We've been using them for years. Absolutely love their products. They are on all of our vehicles, personal vehicles, off-road vehicles. They're everywhere. I love their stuff. Yeah, that's about it. We are going to be replacing the calipers as well, but for those we went to O'Reilly. We have a lifetime warranty there, so we just keep rotating them out. As far as everything else goes, pretty simple. If you have any questions, again, feel free to shoot us a message. Make sure you check out our Facebook page at facebook.com/KSuspension. Make sure to also check out our website, KSuspensionFab.com. Otherwise, I do hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, happy trails.